Let's do this. Subscribe to the channel. Y'all sit around. Let me do this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the name of GODGOTHAM and welcome back to the channel. The second channel.
Alright, y'all, get thrown in. Y'all see the title, and today we got How to Beat Anime, and this one is How to Beat the Death Game and Allison in the Borderland. I don't think I saw this anime right here before, man. So y'all already know I'm here for it. I need to see how we're gonna beat some of this. Like I say, I like watching his stuff. I like how he put his certain pieces and details and more details and all that type of stuff into pieces. So y'all already know. I like how they break it down. So y'all already know. Link up in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, for the I'm slogan. The greatest. Otherwise, I ain't got.
If you were kidnapped and forced to play brutal death games every night, what would you do? I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the death games in Alice in Borderland. This kid is about to realize that danger is around every corner. This spiky-haired student Arisu wakes up on an empty beach with two other friends. They find themselves inside an overgrown city where there are no signs of human life. Searching a convenience store, the reality begins to sink in that they're in some sort of dream, or so they think. Arisu tells the others that they've
they're probably in the Matrix, I believe.
Now got the freedom to do whatever they want, but all this freedom will come at a deadly price. Later that night, the smoker Karubi begins to worry that this dream isn't going to end. He urges the others to start taking the situation seriously and stop the underage drinking. There's no dream. They're far away from home and they need to get back. That's when he hears something in the distance and realizes that they aren't the only ones in this empty city. Okay, if being in an abandoned city sounds like a good idea, it might not seem so fun when we realize there's
if you're the only people there, man. Well, like, what can you possibly do, man? Like, for real.
no internet. Now, there's not much we can do about waking up kidnapped. We have no idea where the hell we are, and there's a good chance that the other people are going to try and hunt us down. If other Japanese death games in general are anything to go by, however, we first noticed that right before we suddenly appeared here, there was a blast emitted from those fireworks that seemingly blinded us for a period of time. However, we can clearly see now and seemingly have no retinal damage, which means that the blast we saw was clearly not some type of explosive ordnance, since the blast from a 1 megaton explosion would be bright enough to blind anyone who looks at it within a 53-mile radius. Because these kids were clearly within that radius, it's safe to say that what they saw was clearly something else entirely. And also, we have no burns and are not suffering from any type of acute radiation poisoning either, which, if this scenario was caused by an explosion, we likely would have at least felt something burning on our skin by now. This means that, putting aside any alien abduction type crap, someone has put us here. At least that is what I would assume based on all the current factors presented. This means that the only chilling I'd be doing would be to crack open a cold one while we try and get to the bottom of this as soon as possible, because I doubt anyone would kidnap us into having a good time unless that spot was in Bangkok, Thailand, and in that case I would simply have called Dom for help instead. Or maybe I wouldn't. Yeah, probably not. Now, using regular survival tips as a guessing guide, we can try our best to survive as long as possible. The first thing we should do is stock up on as much water as we can. Luckily for us, Japan's tap water is completely safe to drink. In fact, it's some of the cleanest in the world.
I gotta go there.
Next thing we should do is to look for food. Japan is a country known for having large amounts of processed food, meaning
like noodles, right?
preservatives in said food should mean that eating out won't be too difficult. Now that our basic essentials are sorted, we still need to find out where the hell we are, and again, we seem to be fine from a radiation standpoint, at least for now, but I would strip my boys down to their skivvies, I mean underwear, and check for any and all rope burns, consisting of redness, irritation, or bleeding on the skin, to indicate if we were bound at any point during our time, while unconscious, because either we've been kidnapped by some creepo abducted by aliens, or we're in some sick form of weeb purgatory. And if that's the case, then that means we're already dead. The boys find themselves at an overnight market, excited by all the amazing stalls available inside. They notice a booth in the middle of the market mentioning that 4 entries have been confirmed over the loudspeaker. Worried Karubi tells the others to leave before anything bad happens. But that's when
he like the smart one. He the smart one.
mysterious lady interrupts to warn him to not step outside. These kids look gullible as hell, and she comments that they must be new around here. She says that the world they're in is very real.
He probably got to be the smart one, man. He the smart one. I think he the MC. He the MC.
And death is around every corner. She flicks the kid's cigarette out of the market, and suddenly it disintegrates into nothing. The lady mentions that they're a part of a game, and it's just about to begin. The booth announces that the game's difficulty is set to 3 of clubs, and tells each person to draw 1 fortune slip. If everyone draws a fortune slip, they beat the game. They win. Not drawing a slip, though, means that you fail before it even starts. The students demand that the lady reveals everything she knows. She introduces herself as Shibuki and tells them that the 3 of clubs means that the game is less dangerous. The lady mentions that they need to be aware of every small detail if they want to stay alive. Confused, Arisu questions her about the rules and where the hell they even are. The lady gets angry and tells him to figure it out himself. They arrive at the booth and the smoker decides to go first. He's given a slip that states, "You are the general. The person you're waiting for is south of here." The next person to pick is Chota. He's given a mathematical equation in order to write the answer down on this slip. At the same time, Karubi questions the lady, asking her why she's participating in another game. She tells them that they're all in the same position and doesn't know what will happen after the game is over. But
I think she in on it. She in on it, bro.
that's when Chota answers the mathematical equation wrong. The booth then announces that a wrong answer will result in being shot dead. Suddenly, flaming arrows attack.
Well, if so, then he got to be the one that go, man. I'm sorry, look, you my friend, but you got to go, bro, because you got that answer wrong. If that was me, I know I probably got it wrong, so I probably had to go too then.
The kid and almost kill him. Shibuki tells them she'll go next, and Arisu freaks his shit out at her. That's when she mentions that there's a time limit. If all the lamps turn off, they'll lose the game. Okay, this is some serious business. What we thought was a little fun game to keep us occupied is actually going to result in our deaths if we don't do something now. Looking at our options, it doesn't seem like running is a good idea. There's some sort of laser beam wall covering our every direction, and this is going to limit our escape opportunities. Now we know, if we get the mathematical equations wrong, there's going to be flaming arrows ready to burn us alive and shred us to pieces all at the same time. Great. Since there's no friends in this game, we should look to our buddies and use this girl to our advantage. We don't know her, and
Yeah, just use her. Use her for now.
bringing more people along in our group means that supplies will run out even faster. However, what we can do is use her body as a sort of meat shield. She doesn't look that small of a lady, and I'm pretty sure Johnny Depp would agree. And that means she's perfect for us, to use her as a shield from the arrows if we have to, of course. Now, we might not know how to beat the game specifically, but what we do know is that the game will end once the lamps burn out. The game never specifies whether or not we can reignite them, so let's assume that we might be able to wait out the game until they run out of flaming arrows.
And I use them flaming arrows to light up them candles. You see what I'm saying?
The lady did tell us to pay attention to every small detail, so this is probably our best chance of success. Shibuki picks her slip and is given another problem. The lady tells the booth her answer is 30, but she's completely wrong. Suddenly, hundreds of flaming
my
arrows are
God.
sent in their direction.
Bro, ain't no dang way. Come on. You're dead.
Arisu becomes frozen with fear, staring at a sea of death coming his way. His buddy runs over and kicks him in the back, telling him to grow some balls and run.
See, he the MC. He is the MC. I hope he don't be, he probably gonna end up being dead though.
He then suddenly decides that he wants to live and run safely to cover, but the group then notices that Chota is still out in the open. He then gets struck in the calf by an arrow, and Arisu goes to help, but he notices the cursed slip drop right next to him. Chota's leg catches on fire, and he screams out in pain. The smoker rushes over with a pool of water and throws it onto his screaming friend. Arisu praises his buddy for being a hero
But wouldn't the fire like start spreading around out them arrows? Come on, man.
and gets the courage to pick out the fourth and final slip. He draws the greatest curse, and the others realize that they're done for. Arisu begins to think hard, looking back at all the recent events for any clues, and suddenly he blurts out the answer as 6.9 billion. The booth shows a number of 6.93 billion and tells him that the answer is wrong, but Arisu has a
But he was close though. They should at least gave him that.
plan. He turns around and tells everyone that the question is impossible to answer to begin with. Something is clearly wrong. The rules state that they must answer the questions, but never mention that it would win them the game. All they need to do is to avoid the arrows, as clearly stated on every single slip they've been given so far. Seeing the arrows coming, they grab cover and run as fast as possible. The group finds a well, and Karbi opens it to find nothing but dirt. That's when he spots a tile-like material in the dirt and digs through to find a wheel. They head underneath, and the game congratulates them for winning the 3 of clubs. Arisu is given a visa, showing him how many days he can stay in the desolate city known as Borderland. Shibuki tells them that rumor states there are a lot more people here than they realize. At night, they all appear in games, and your visa is extended if you win. Later, Chota spots a crazy man hiding in this school. The man blocks the door and mentions that all his friends were killed in the most horrifying ways possible. Suddenly, green beams hit the city, and Arisu begins to realize the punishment for their visas expiring. The next day, the group shares breakfast and enjoys a little bit of peace and quiet. That's when Karbi interrupts, urging them to play another game tonight. He tells them Chota will be sitting out since he's injured, but the others need to sharpen their survival skills to make it out alive. Chota then says that since he's not playing, his visas won't be expired. Shibuki volunteers to stay back with him, and they agree to play another game when he's recovered. The two enter the location for the second game and see scary-looking participants waiting around. A voice announces that the game has started, and a bloodthirsty killer is somewhere in the building. They're told the game that they're playing is tag, and this complex is the playground. The difficulty is revealed to be 5 of spades, and this well-dressed man informs the boys that spade-based games require physical effort. The loudspeaker informs everyone that the game will last 30 minutes, and whoever is the killer will start hunting in 5 minutes. The complex has one room that isn't locked, and that's the home base of the killer. If a player can reach the home base within the time limit, they'll beat the game. The game is over when the time runs out or all the players have been killed. Last but not least, though, the building is surrounded by landmines to make sure no one leaves.
Wow, landmine. That's one way to try to get us.
Of course. Okay, here we go again. We're now completely familiar with these types of death games and know that some effed up shit is about to happen. People are going to die, and there's no reason to be shocked. In fact, we need to use them to our advantage. We should try and pick out any gullible suckers that we can use and add them to our group of disposable idiots. There's some people here who are experiencing these death games for the very first time, which means we can use their inexperience to help them. If I was Arisu, I would tell the first timers that we're allowed to retry once we're killed in the game. They've all just been transported to a random city in the outskirts of Japan, and I know they're probably going to believe anything that comes out of my mouth.
I'm just saying, I don't think they'll probably believe him, man. I don't know about that. If all their other friends was being eliminated, I don't know, man, like that.
This time around, it seems like whoever's making these games is using landmines to keep us from running away. Brilliant. This makes the situation a lot easier for us to escape rather than having instant death laser beams all around us. That being said, we don't know how many landmines have been planted, or how far out the landmines extend, or even where the hell they are. But I think it's safe to assume that there's a lot of them. Let's just completely forget about the objective of the game and try our hand at escaping. We don't know if this visa stuff is even real, and it sure doesn't seem like throwing ourselves into more death games is the best way to stay alive. Arisu and Karabi are best off convincing some dumb schmucks to test it out and throw themselves out of bounds to their purely coincidental death. I'd use my trusty friend Karabi and tell him to lead the way as another lifeline. However, that wouldn't mean we're in the clear just yet. It's safe to assume that these game creators have more than a few landmines planted around the area, which means while other people are getting massacred, if we can find a heavy object, something like a fire extinguisher, which is commonly found in apartment complexes, we could throw that off of the building as well and on the surrounding area. This will detonate the landmines and give us a clear pathway out of here, possibly. Of course, this isn't a foolproof method of surviving, but thinking out of the box is more important when our lives are on the line. Arisu instantly begins analyzing the situation at hand. Suddenly, they hear the sound of a door opening and shots are fired. They run upstairs to see 2 players being brutally murdered. The killer turns to them and starts shooting, forcing them to run for their lives. Arisu stops his buddy and tells them to head another direction, using the well-dressed man as a decoy. And he tells Karubi to hold his breath. Once the killer passes, the boys run as fast as possible away. That's when Arisu reveals that the killer was dragging his foot, meaning they can move faster than him. Arisu tells his buddy that now's the time to find the home base. Karubi screams out to the other players, telling them the identity of the killer and urges them to help each other. However, he doesn't realize that this is not a game of trust. This purple-haired girl tries to warn this player about the killer, but gives up and climbs away, narrowly missing the machine gun. Meanwhile, this desperate man tries to leave the play area and gets blown to bits, assuring the others that there's no reason to leave yet. Now, 10 minutes have passed, and they've begun to realize that checking each door manually is too slow. Arisu spaces out for a second, and the killer spots them standing around. He then hides behind the wall, hoping that the killer only noticed his buddy. Karubi runs downstairs and bumps into these two serious-looking players. They tell him that they're looking for the killer, and it's time to stop running. Karubi grabs the killer's attention, distracting him while the others spray their fire extinguishers. That's when they signal to the bald man, and he opens the elevator door to choke him out from behind. But suddenly, the bald man is shot dead, and the killer reveals another gun. He then shoots the other man, who says before he dies, he should have known there was another gun, and the killer heads straight for Karubi. Arisu spots him running away and calls out for his buddy, putting himself in danger. Noticing the killer coming his way, he realizes that the man isn't after him. He's only protecting the home base. The game of tag is a cover-up to throw them off of the real target. With only 1 minute left, Arisu knows that the
Gotta learn out some type of way.
killer must be guarding the base. That's when he sees Karubi coming around the corner, and a plan is put into action. Arisu grabs the killer's attention, while Karubi sneaks up from behind. He grabs and throws the man, allowing Arisu to get inside. But suddenly the horse-faced killer reappears and is about to kill him, but this athletic girl manages to knock him down, and they both press the buttons and the man explodes, meaning they've just won the second game. Later, Karubi spots this long-haired man looking around the dead bodies. The man explains he knows more about this game than, well, most, and tells Karubi to find a working radio if he wants information. The next day, he finds a taxi radio ordering everyone to find a nearby beach. The group arrives at the next location to find a sign for the third game. They put on these headsets and walk inside, looking around to see a massive indoor nature zone. The doors lock and a loudspeaker announces that it's game time. The difficulty is revealed as 7 of Hearts, their hardest game yet. This time, they'll be playing hide and seek. One person will be the wolf and the rest will be sheep. The players must hide from the wolf's sight. If they're caught, the wolf and the sheep will switch places. The sheep then has 3 seconds to disappear. Shocked, the group realizes that one of them has to die. That's when the loudspeaker announces that the wolf is the only winner. Once the game is over, the choker around the sheep's neck will explode. The game announces the players' roles, with Chota being the wolf. Okay, this is totally messed up, but survival of the fittest is how it goes.
Yeah, this it's crazy. Now you got what's called your friends. Sacrifice your friend, bro.
Now we know the biggest mistake is by entering another death game. However, if I'm Arisu, I'm pulling at all the emotional heartstrings of my buddy Chota to make him look at me, even if it resorts to me giving him a good hard slap. If that doesn't work, then I'm taking my buddy's head and forcibly making him look at me. If his eyes are shut, I'm going to use my thumbs and pry his lids open. Once that's sorted out, I'm running away as far as I can to avoid looking at my friends and reverting back to a sheep. Survival of the fittest is the name of the game, folks. And while these boys have probably been my friends for a long time, I can always make more friends once I'm out of here. Now, playing a game of hide and seek in a massively huge park forest shouldn't be that hard of a place to hide in. There seems to be a wide variety of creeks, streams, bushes that we can use to hide in. Luckily for us, the time limit for the game is only 10 minutes long. That's not exactly a lot of time for the others to find us. This game isn't really that hard. All you have to do is suppress your emotions and act like a psychopath, and imagine as if you've lived through a lifetime of trauma knowing that you've just killed your best friends. Since this indoor forest is home to a number of tall, sturdy trees, we could also try our best to climb up one of them and hold on to it for the remainder of the game. As long as the tree is big enough and tall enough, and the foliage in the tree is thick enough, we could even take a nap on one of the branches, just like in the Jungle Book, while everyone else dies. And that way, no one is going to be able to catch me and change my wolf status. Chota is injured, Karubi is too dang heavy, and Shibuki's tight clothes are going to restrict her from any kind of climbing in general. shocked. Arisu tries thinking of a way out, but can't come up with anything. As the wolf, Shibuki here makes the biggest mistake. She runs off and Karabi freaks out. He pins her down to the ground and threatens to kill her for betraying them. Shibuki manages to throw him off while he's distracted, and she looks up to Chota on accident. The new wolf then runs off while Arisu runs after him. Chota accidentally looks at him, changing the wolf one more time. He
This is too much.
decides to take the opportunity and tells Chota that they're no longer friends. With only 5 minutes left on the clock, Arisu hides in the bushes to avoid the others. That's when Chota contacts on the headsets to make a dirtbag confession. He tells them that he hooked up with Shibuki while they were gone. Shocked, Arisu screams out and realizes that the game is tearing them apart. He walks to the front of the park and tells them to come out if they want to be the wolf and survive. Arisu desperately tries looking for them, but all the sheep agree to let him survive. They bid him farewell
man.
as the chokers explode on their necks, leaving him as the sole survivor. The park then bursts into flames, and Arisu is left all alone. He explodes in a rage and promises to kill anyone responsible for these games. Then the pink-haired girl from earlier gives Arisu her hand and tells him to come along if he wants to.
As you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, my God. Oh, y'all. Friends. They some real friends, bro. They some real friends, bro. I ain't got too much to say about that, but man, that was crazy though, man. You gotta, oh no, man. But yeah, but no, it ain't real serious, bro.